Welcome everybody to the Canada Science and Technology Museum's Google Hangout for Families. My name is Astronomel. Thanks for joining us today. So we're going to talk about trains and locomotives. So we have some special stuff going on this evening. We're going to talk to Emily, who is a curator at the museum, and she's going to take us through a little bit of a tour through some of the trains in our reserve collection, so some we don't get to see all the time. So we're going to join her a little later. We're going to be able to make a craft, so we're going to do that at the very end of our broadcast, and we're going to make this guy here. This is a little craft for the kids at home, so it's a tissue box, and it's also a locomotive or a train. So the Canada Science and Technology Museum collects a lot of historical artifacts and different things from Canadian history. And one of those very important things in Canadian history is the transportation. And so we know that Canada is a pretty big country. We need some ways to get around. And so trains and locomotives were sort of the first really efficient way of getting from one end of the country to the other. So Emily's going to talk to us a little bit about how that started, a little bit about why it's important to Canada, and show us inside one of the trains. So before we get started, you might be wondering why it's called trains and locomotives. Well, actually, locomotives are just the engine of the train. So it's just this part on a train, and so it's just the front engine. So usually they can be steam or electric locomotives, and you'll have sometimes different cars going all the way to the back, and that whole thing is called the train until the very end, to the caboose. There was different roles or jobs you could have on a train. I'll just lift this up here so you can see it. So there's different roles. You could be the engineer, the conductor, there's brakemen, there were firemen, there was the engineer as well. And so we're going to talk to you a little bit about history of trains as well. And so we're going to go to Emily. She is right now in the reserve collection at the museum. So our museum is actually closed in Ottawa here, but next door is where Emily is, and she can show us all of the really cool things that we don't have room to put on the floor at the museum, and some trains are some of those. So we do have some trains in the collection, but a lot of them are behind the scenes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remind everybody that we have a Q&A app that's going on the Google Hangout. It's maybe to the right of your screen. And anytime you have any questions, you can ask them there, or you can ask them on Twitter with the hashtag AskSciTech. So that's the Science and Technology Museum, hashtag AskSciTech, and we'll be monitoring those and answering any questions that you might have. And I see we already have some questions. I'm going to wait sort of after Emily's done her little tour to answer them. Because I believe that Zachariah and Hannah have a question for Emily, and we'll answer it in just a couple minutes when Emily has a chance to sort of show us around. So it's kind of cool. Emily's in black and white today, so I'm going to go straight to her. I'm going to go to her picture, and I'm going to have to turn on her microphone so we can hear her. Just give me 1 second, because Emily's going to be a little silent for a bit. All right, there we go. Emily, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, excellent. Thank you. So, Emily, I'll let you take it away and talk about the locomotives and maybe a little bit about where you are today.
Okay, so I am in one of our storage facilities. We have 3 storage facilities here at Science and Tech, and this is our largest and has most of our transportation collection. So behind me here you can see one of our locomotives. This one recently we operated throughout the summer months. It's called the Shea Locomotive, and you might have taken a trip on it if you were here a few summers ago. So we have 12 locomotives in the collection, some of which are inside the museum, but most of which are along the 2 sets of track that I'm sort of sandwiched in between right now. These 12 pieces, I should say, they represent different types of steam engines, different types of engines, and would have operated on different types of tracks. So what I have to my right here is our oldest locomotive, and this one was built in the 1870s. And if we go towards the front of it, right, so you might notice that it's not black, so that it's a lighter color. It's currently being restored. Now we don't restore most of our artifacts. We collect them and we preserve them and we make sure that they stay in the condition that we get them in. But we're restoring this one to look as it did when it was built in the 1870s. And then we'll keep going down this way.
So Emily, while you're walking, I have a question that's been posted on the Q&A for you. So Zachariah and Hannah would like to know, what is the biggest locomotive ever made?
Oh, my goodness. I don't have an answer for that one, but I will be showing you the largest locomotive that we have in our collection, and it's actually our heaviest piece in the collection. But what I wanted to show you first was the Blue Goose, and so that's this locomotive right here. For people that are big Beatles fans, it sort of looks like something from the Yellow Submarine song and movie. And so this is our most recent locomotive acquisition. This one is from the 1950s. So just there you have about 80-year difference between the two pieces.
So Emily, it's too bad we can't see any color on the Blue Goose.
I don't know if I can. Oh, okay.
Do you have a color? Oh, we're in color now. Excellent.
Right,
so it is indeed blue.
Yes.
And Emily, maybe can we switch it to landscape so that maybe we can see more of it at once? So if you switch the view. Oh, nice.
We were using black and white to be authentic, but...
Just like in the olden days.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so now we'll head over to the 1201. So this is our largest locomotive, and this one is actually pretty famous. It was the last locomotive built by CP at the Angus shops in Montreal in 1944. It also was used to pull one of the royal cars in a 1970s visit, and it has been used in a lot of different films and photo opportunities for locomotives. And for people who are from Ottawa, they might know the town of Wakefield. So this locomotive used to pull a train from the Ottawa area to Wakefield. So the piece that we're looking at right here is quite large. This is called the tender. Now, this locomotive was restored to use oil and water, and so all of that would have been kept in this area here. More water than oil, right, to make the steam. The bottom area that we can see, these are the tracks down here, and the wheels. I'm not sure how well you can see that. It's a little dark. So we have these smaller wheels here that support the tender. Okay. So here's the cab, and we'll head in there in a minute. Pretty high up. And then we have the running mechanism that's right here. So these are the larger wheels, front set, and then those that are here to support the cab. All right? So these wheels here would have been creating the movement of the locomotive, so having it move forward or slow down. The ones at the very front would help to maneuver and steer on the track. And then the ones under the cab would just support the weight of the cab. And then up top, and what most locomotives are really well known for, is their large boilers. So that's that large cylinder part that you see up there, or that you see on most locomotives. And so that's where the water was being heated and steam was being produced to make the locomotive. Right? So now we're going to head into the cab. So we'll try and do that as gracefully as possible. So it gets a little dark in here, but we have a flashlight. So here you can see, maybe you can see, yes, you can kind of see. So here we're in the cab. Now typically you would have two people working in here. You would have the engineer, and the engineer was responsible for getting the train to move forward and back and slow down, and then you would have the fireman, and the fireman was responsible for keeping the steam pressure high, and that meant keeping the fire burning. So he would move the coal or operate the oil into the boiler. So those are those two jobs. In some locomotives, like the one that we have in the museum, there's a third seat. So you can see the two seats, one seat over there, and then another seat over here. Oh, looks like someone was sitting there. And that was for the brakesman. So there could be 3 people working in here. Now this area was not a really enjoyable working area. It was really, really warm. This right here would be very, very hot because down in here into the boiler you would have your fire. So that would be creating a lot of heat. And then cabs weren't that well insulated. So if it was really warm outside, you weren't getting a break from that. And if it was really cold outside, you weren't getting a break from that either. So a very dirty and hot and sort of cramped working condition. So I don't know.
That's great. So you said that the engineer helps it go forward and backwards. Is there a lever or a steering wheel or something like that? How would they do that?
So now that the pieces themselves, I don't know how they all work, but there are a whole host of different levers and valves that they would have to read that indicate the pressure that's going on inside the boiler and in different cylinders in the running mechanism. So it's not like driving a car where you put your right foot on the gas and then you can put it on the brakes. It's a whole sort of system, and you would have to be trained to operate and to know how to do that. And I'm not trained, and I don't know how to do that.
Emily, can we get a close-up of some of the knobs and dials and kind of maybe just stay steady on some of them to see what's going on? Because those are pretty cool.
Yeah, so you can see the manufacturer of many of them is Westinghouse. I'm sure you can see that there.
That's very neat. And do trains nowadays, do they look the same?
They look very different. So actually, if we look out the window, I'm sure you can do that. So here we have Inovia, and this is one of our more recent acquisitions. Now this would have used induction. So it would have used electricity pulling from the tracks in order to move forwards and backwards and along the rail. So pretty different from such a huge machine making steam like this one.
So we have a lot of steam locomotives in our collection, but also, like you said, across the tracks, the electric one, which is pretty cool. And that's what would be the via rails and things like that maybe we've gone in before as a passenger. Great. All right. Thanks, Emily. So we might get back to you later when we have some more questions. So I'm just going to go ahead and switch over here to see everybody. And I'm going to turn Emily's mic off so that she can get outside of that train very nicely there. So we can't hear her anymore. So again, if you guys have any questions for Emily about anything that she talked about just then, you can ask it on the Q&A app, or you can check Twitter. I'm checking Twitter right here to the hashtag AskSciTech. You can ask your questions through there if you're not joining us live through Google Hangouts. So Emily showed us some really cool stuff that we have in our reserve collection. We also have some neat things that are in the museum right now. Let me show you. I can do a little bit of a screen share here. So let me see if I can work this technology and get us this. So I'm going to do a screen share. You'll have to bear with me here because I'm a little bit. There we go. So in the museum itself, we have other trains. So this one's called the 6400. It's an older train here. And I'm just going to make sure that you guys are seeing the same thing as me. Excellent. So that one's actually on the floor, and it was made to be very aerodynamic at the time, and it's not used very much. Here is an ad that was done for Canadian National Magazine. So CN is one of the big companies in steam locomotives that we had before. And this is a 6400, and so there was only a few of them built, and it was made to be super sleek, super aerodynamic, and you can see in the background there's maybe the Rockies, and you're going through the Canadian landscape. So it's pretty cool. Trains are really important to Canada. I think I've got another image here of all the 6400s. So we have the 6400 in the museum, and this looks like 6404, 6403 maybe. I think I can zoom in a little bit, 6401. And so this is kind of the trains in the train yard. So That's a pretty cool sight to see. Of course, this is a photo from a while ago. Our 6400 is now just on the floor, so on the floor of the museum in Ottawa. And so I'm going to stop the screen share so that we can get back to chatting here. And I'm going to show you a little bit about how to make your own craft with trains or a locomotive. And so here is a pretty cool craft, and all it takes is a little bit of construction paper, some glue, some scissors, and like I showed you before, it's a train, but it's also a Kleenex box, so you can put your Kleenex out of there, and it's kind of like the steam coming out of the locomotive. So I'm going to show you sort of some of the secrets on how to do that. So really, it's just a shell, and inside are hiding 2 Kleenex boxes here. So the way that you would do it is you'd use a few pieces of paper. This is some nice construction paper. You can use whatever color you'd like. And first you're going to make sort of the body around Kleenexes. So I realized that there's a little bit of the lower thirds and the bottom here is covering what I want to show you. So I'm hopefully going to have to put everything up. So I have 2 Kleenex boxes. You want to just measure around them. I used 4 pieces of construction paper to make sort of a shell around them. And you're going to arrange them in such a way that you can sort of attach them. And you can use glue or you can use tape, whatever you'd like. I'm going to use a little bit of a paper clip here. I'm going to see if I can do something for you to make it look a little bit easier so you can see how to do this yourself. Now, just give me 1 second. I'm going to open up a program to try this. So again, we're just using some construction paper. I've glued a few pieces together here to go all the way around the 2 Kleenex boxes. You can use an elastic to keep them together if you want. Then what you're going to do is from another piece of construction paper, so this was just 1 piece, I cut a hole in the middle and folded it around to be the size of the top of the Kleenex box. And so, let's see if we can grab this picture really quickly so that we can see. So here is the top of the box. So you're going to want to fit it right on top, which is great. I'm not going to touch it yet because there's still some more to do. As you can see, we need still a chimney. What I've done for the chimney, we take some black. You can do whatever colors you want, of course. Black is what we use because that's kind of the colors of our trains. But you can cut it out. So what I did is I just cut a piece of paper like this. And then what you're going to do is cut some slits along half of the paper. And that's going to help keep it in place when you roll it up. So you're going to roll up your chimney like this. Maybe you have some tape to attach it together. And you can use glue. It works a lot better than tape, and it looks a little bit nicer. And then you can fold these out. Kind of looks like an octopus. You can fold them out and fit it here. So what I'm going to do is put it through the lid, like this, and then you can glue it all in place on the bottom here. When you've got that done, you can slide it back on, and make sure you've got your, you can remove the Kleenexes after, so it doesn't matter which side it's on, but just make sure that your Kleenexes come out the top like this one does. So I don't think I'm going to be able to show you guys any close-ups here, but anyways, here's the chimney and the Kleenex coming out. It's dripping a little bit there. The other thing that we've done to make it look a little bit more like a train is we've added, and you can see it on this one, we've added a bit of a hood on here. So just cut out another piece of paper, and you can slide it in here. Of course, oops, we're going to put it not over the chimney. You can slide it in here and tape it in place again. And then you've kind of got what looks like almost the start of a locomotive. Now, of course, we need some wheels, right? So what we've done for wheels is you can grab anything. You can use cardboard, but what I've used here are just some lid jars. So you can buy these pretty inexpensively at the store, and this is for jars or for canning. And so I've just glued them right here to give the wheels. I'm going to just tape a couple right now so that we can kind of get the idea of the wheels. But again, glue is a lot better for this type of thing. You can color them in after if you like. I don't know if these are going to stay on with just tape. You guys will be much better at this, and you'll be much more careful than I'm being right now, of course. Now, of course, I've lost my tape. Maybe I'll never get it back. This is what happens with tape, doesn't it? It gets lost. Not sure I should fight with this too much more. So we have one wheel. Of course, you'll add another wheel here. And then what happens when you're all done, and you can add some little embellishments. So on this one, what we've got is we have two little lights here at the front so that the train can see. So you can add a sort of a plow with this at the top for your favorite locomotive. You can color it in the fashion of your favorite locomotive if you have a favorite train or locomotive. And then we added some windows here, like on the cabin. That's where we saw Emily went on the 1201. So you could even add some numbers here. You can add the 1201, your favorite number of your train. When it's all done and you've glued it together and it's nice and secure, you can see inside there we've glued the chimney nice and secure. Then what you'll do is you'll take your two Kleenex boxes, and it works better if you have two because then the chimney can be at one end. I'll take that one out. Then you just slide it right on top like this because you made it so that it'll fit now. So I've got my Kleenex boxes inside, and there you go. There's your train Kleenex box, your tissue box, and it just takes a little bit of cutting, maybe a few jars, and the locomotive cardboard there. So hopefully you can make this at home. If you have any questions about how to make it, you can ask them now, or you can ask them later, and we'll be happy to get back to you as well. I'm going to check our Twitter account just to see if anybody's been chatting with us, and hopefully we'll be able to go back to Emily because I have a question for her about the wheels on the locomotive. So you see we saw these wheels here on our train, and they're pretty big. So I'm wondering, we're going to go back to Emily. Maybe she knows why they're so big. So I'm just going to go back, and we'll turn on her microphone in just 1 second here, if I can get the controls. So Emily, I think we can hear you now. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Excellent. So Emily, I don't know if you heard me before because we were making a craft and our wheels are pretty big on the train. Why are the wheels on a train so big?
So we'll come over to the wheel of the 1201. This one of them here. So they're quite large. They're almost as tall as I am, or yeah, maybe a little bit shorter. So the wheels are really big to get momentum going and to support the weight of the locomotive. What's also really interesting is that, not like wheels on your car or on your bike, the wheels of a locomotive are very, very smooth, as is the track. So there's not a lot of friction going on there, so it slides really, really well. And the wheels are very large to support things like this counterweight here. So you can sort of see this large, this piece right here that's filled in, as opposed to the wheel on the other side here that's open. And that balances the movement of the wheel and helps it rock forward and continues that momentum that's being created by the steam and the pistons moving the wheel in a circle.
That's awesome. I think they're almost as big as you are, I think. You're about as tall as that wheel is.
Yes.
And so, Emily, how did you get those trains into the museum? How did you get the locomotive in there? Because it's a building still. It's not out in the open. How did they get there?
That's true. So you can see that they're in a nice straight line, the two of them, and they're actually sitting on tracks. And you can sort of see down at the end over there that there are garage doors. And near to the museum, there's a train station. And so locomotives could come to us from the train station. So we would just extend tracks. And that's what we actually did with the museum. So we extended tracks from the train station, and we drove the locomotives right up to the outside wall of the museum, took away the extra tracks, and then built a home around it. So this one was a little bit different, but you still get the idea.
Emily, do you think we can ever get them out of there?
I think it would be really challenging, and I think it would probably cost quite a bit of money. So I think that unless we have a great plan of what to do with them, I think what we like to do is to bring visitors through the warehouse and connect with them online like we're doing right now. It's a much easier way to get people to see the locomotives.
Excellent. Thanks, Emily. And so I don't think we have any more questions. I'm just going to go to us. I'll keep your microphone on, though, so that if we do have any questions, you can answer. But it looks like it's kind of going to be good night for us. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. And hopefully in the next little bit, you get to sort of explore some locomotives on your own, maybe see some trains in your local city. So thanks, everybody. And good night, Emily, as well. We'll see everybody later.